welcome back. I hope you're ready to read the second part of chapter 6. Yesterday, Percy was going on a tour with Kieran around Camp Half-Blood. We got introduced to all of the 12 cabins that represent the 12 Olympians, and so we're going to continue reading. They just ran into Annabeth. The blonde girl I met, we're on page 83, by the way. The blonde girl I met in the big house was reading a book in the front of the last cabin on the left, number 11. When we reached her, she looked at me over critically, like she was still thinking about how much I drooled. I tried to see what she was reading, but I couldn't make out the title. I thought my dyslexia was acting up, and then I realized the title wasn't even in English, and the letters looked Greek to me. I mean, like literally Greek. There were pictures of temples and statues and different types of columns, like those in architecture books. Annabeth, Kieran said, I have a master archery class at noon. Would you take Percy from here? Yes, sir. Cabin 11, Kieran told me, gesturing towards the doorway. Make yourself at home. Out of all the cabins, 11 looked the most like regular old summer camp cabin, with an emphasis on old. The threshold was worn down and the brown paint was peeling, and over the door was one of the doctor's symbols, a winged pole with two snakes wrapped around it. What do they call it? I think they call it a caduceus. Inside, it was packed with people, both boys and girls, way more than the number of bunk beds. Sleeping bags were spread all over the floor, and it looked like a gym where the Red Cross had set up an evacuation center. Kieran didn't go in. The door was too low for him, but when the campers saw him, they stood and bowed respectfully. Well then, Kieran said, good luck, Percy. I'll see you at dinner. He galloped away towards the archery range. I stood in a doorway looking at the kids. They weren't bowing anymore. They were staring at me, sizing me up. I knew this routine. I'd gone through it enough in all other schools. Well, Annabeth prompted, go on. So naturally, I tripped going in the door and made a total fool of myself. There were some snickers from the campers, but none of them really said anything. Annabeth announced, Percy, meet cabin 11. Regular or undetermined? Somebody asked. I didn't know what to say, but Annabeth said undetermined, and everybody groaned. A guy who was a little older than the rest came forward. Now, campers, that's what we're here for. Welcome, Percy. You can come here, come have the spot on the floor right over there. The guy was about 19, and he looked pretty cool. He was taller and muscular, with short-cropped sandy hair and a friendly smile. He wore an orange tank top, cutoffs, sandals, and a leather necklace with 5 different colored clay beads. The only thing unsettling about his appearance was this thick white scar that ran from just beneath his eye to his jaw, like an old knife slash. That's Luke, Annabeth said. Her voice sounded different somehow. I glanced over and could have sworn she was blushing. She saw me looking, and her expression hardened again. He's your counselor for now. For now? I asked. You're undetermined, Luke explained patiently. You don't know what cabin to put you in, so you're here. Cabin 11 takes all newcomers, all visitors. Naturally, we would. Hermes, our patron, which is like their mascot, is the god of travelers. I looked at the tiny section of floor they'd given me. I had nothing to put there to mark it was my own. No luggage, no clothes, no sleeping bag, just the Minotaur. I thought, I can't say it too loud. It'll give it power, you know. I thought about setting that down, but then I remembered Hermes, and I also remember they were god of thieves. I looked around at the campers' faces, all sullen and suspicious, and some grinning stupidly, some eyeing me as if they were waiting for a chance to pick my pockets. How long will I be here? I asked. Good question, Luke said. I guess until you're determined. How long will that take? All the campers laughed. Come on, Annabeth told me. I'll show you the volleyball courts. I've already seen it. Come on, she said. She grabbed my wrist and dragged me outside. I could hear the kids in cabin 11 laughing behind me. So, What it means by undetermined is they have not determined who Percy's mother or who's his father is. So they don't know what God he is related to, so they don't know what cabin to put him in. So right now he's just in the Hermes cabin until his father, whatever God he is related to, says, oh, he's my son. So they kind of have to wait on someone to pick him or say, he is mine. When we were a few feet away, Annabeth said, Jackson, you have to do better than that. What? She rolled her eyes and mumbled under her breath. I can't believe I thought you were the one. What's your problem? I was getting angry now. All I know is I kill some bull guy. Don't talk like that, Annabeth told me. You know how many kids at this camp wish they had your chance to get killed? To fight the Minotaur. What do you think we train for? I shook my head. Look, if the thing I thought really was the Minotaur, the same one in the stories, yes, then there's only one. Yeah? And he died like a jillion years ago, right? Theseus killed him in the labyrinth, so monsters don't die, Percy. They can be killed, but they don't die. Oh, thanks, that clears it up. They don't have souls like you and me. You can dispel them for a while, maybe even for a whole lifetime if you're lucky. But they're a primal force. Huron calls them archetypes. Eventually, they reform. I thought about Miss Dodds. You mean if I killed one accidentally with a sword? Your math teacher. That's right. She's still out there. You just made her very, very mad. How did you know about Miss Dodds? You talk in your sleep. You almost called her something. A fury? They're Hades' torturers, right? Annabeth glanced nervously at the ground, as if she expected it to open up and swallow her. You can't call them by their names, even here. We call them kindly ones, if you have to speak of them at all. Look, is there anything we can say without it thundering? I sounded whining even to myself, but right then I didn't care. Why do I have to stay in cabin 11 anyways? Why is everybody so crowded together? There's plenty of empty bunks right over there. I pointed to a few cabins, and Annabeth turned pale. You don't just choose your cabin, Percy. It depends on who your parents are, or your parent. She stared at me, waiting for me to get it. My mom is Sally Jackson, I said. She works for the candy store at the Green Central Station. At least, I guess she used to. I'm sorry about your mom, Percy, but that's not what I mean. I'm talking about your other parent, your dad. He's dead. I never knew him. Annabeth sighed. Clearly, she'd had this conversation before with other kids. Percy, your father isn't dead. How can you say that? Do you know him? No, of course not. Then how can you say? Because I know you. You wouldn't be here if you weren't one of us. You don't know anything about me. No, she raised an eyebrow. I bet you moved around from school to school. I bet you got kicked out a lot of them. Diagnosed with dyslexia, probably ADHD too. I tried to swallow my embarrassment. What does that have to do with anything? Taken together, it's almost a sure sign. The letters float off the pages when you read, right? That's because your mind is hardwired for ancient Greek. In your ADHD, you're impulsive. You can't sit still in the classroom. That's your battlefield reflexes. In a real fight, they keep you alive. As for the attention problem, that's because you see too much, Percy, not too little. Your senses are better than a real mortal's. Of course, the teachers want you to be medicated. Most of them are monsters. All of us teachers are monsters. You don't want you seeing them for what they are. You sound like you went through the same thing. Most of the kids here did. If you weren't like us, you couldn't have survived the Minotaur, much less the ambrosia and the nectar. Ambrosia and nectar? The food and drinks we were giving you to make you better. That stuff would have killed a normal kid. And it would have turned your blood to fire and your bones to sand, and you'd be dead. Face it, you're a half-blood. A half-blood? I was reeling with so many questions I didn't know where to start. Then a husky voice yelled, "Well, a newbie." I looked over, and the big girl from the ugly red cabin was sauntering towards me. She had three ugly girls behind her, all big and ugly and mean-looking like her, all wearing camo jackets. "Clarice," Annabeth sighed. "Why don't you just go polish your spear or something?" "Sure, Miss Priss," the big girl said, "so I can run you through it on Friday night." "Ikos," Annabeth said, which I somehow understood was Greek for "go to the crows," though I had a feeling it was a worse curse than it sounded. "You don't stand a chance." "We'll pulverize you," Clary said, but her eye twitched. Perhaps she wasn't sure she could follow through on her threat. She turned towards me. Who's the little runt?" "Percy Jackson," Annabeth said. "Meet Clarice, daughter of Ares." I blinked. Like the war god?" Clarice sneered. "You got a problem with that?" "No," I said, recovering my wits. It explains the bad smell." Clarice growled. "We got an initiation ceremony for newbies, Chrissy." "My name is Percy." "Whatever, come on, I'll show you." "Clarice," Annabeth tried to say. "Stay out of it, wise girl." Annabeth looked pained, but she didn't stay out of it, and I didn't really want her to help. I was a new kid. I had to earn my own reputation. I handed Annabeth the bull man horn and got ready to fight. But before I knew it, Clarice had me by the neck and was dragging me towards a cinder block building that I knew immediately was the bathroom. I was kicking and punching, and I've been in plenty of fights before. But this big girl, Clarice, had hands like iron. She dragged me into the girls' bathroom. There was a line of toilets on one side and a line of shower stalls on the other, and it smelled like any public bathroom. And I was thinking, as much as I could think, with Clarice ripping my hair out, that if this place belonged to the gods, they should have afforded classier Johns. Clarice's friends were all laughing, and they were trying to find the strength. I was trying to find the strength I'd use to fight the Minotaur, but it just wasn't there. "Like he's big through material," Clarice said, as she pushed me towards one of the toilets. "Yeah, right. Bull man probably fell over laughing. He was so stupid looking." Her friend snickered. Annabeth stood in the corner, watching through her fingers. Clarice bent over on her knees and started pushing my head towards the toilet bowl. It reeked like rusted pipes and, well, you know what goes in the toilet. I strained to keep my head up, and I was looking at the scummy water thinking, I will not go into that. I will not. And then something happened. I felt a tug on the pipes I felt a tug in the pit of my stomach. I heard the plumbing rumble and the pipe shudder. Clary's grips on my hair loosened. Water shot out of the toilet, making an arc straight over my head. And the next thing I knew, I was sprawled on the bathroom tiles with Clary screaming behind me. I turned just as the water blasted out of the toilet again, hitting Clary straight in the face so hard it pushed her down onto her butt. The water stayed on her like the spray from a fire hose, pushing her backwards into the shower stall. She struggled, grasping, and her friends started coming towards her. But then the other toilets exploded too, and 6 more streams of toilet water blasted them back. The showers started acting up too, and together all the fixtures sprayed the camouflaged girls right out of the bathroom, spinning them around like pieces of garbage being washed away. As soon as they were out of the door, I felt the tug in my gut lessen, and the water shut off as quickly as it had started. The entire bathroom was flooded. Annabeth hadn't been spared, and she was dripping wet. She hadn't been pushed out of the door. She was standing in the exact same place, staring at me in shock. I looked down and realized I was sitting in the only dry spot in the whole room. There was a circle of dry floor around me, and I didn't have one drop of water on my clothes. Nothing. I stood up, my legs shaking. Annabeth said, "How did you do that?" I said, "I don't know." We walked to the door. Outside, Clarice and her friends were sprawled in the mud, and a bunch of the other campers had gathered around to gawk. Clarice's hair was flattened across her face. Her camouflage jacket was sopping, and she smelled like sewage. She gave me a look of absolute hatred. "You're dead, new boy. You're totally dead." I probably should have let it go, but I said, "You want to gargle that toilet water again, Clarice?" "Close your mouth." Her friends had to hold her back. They dragged her towards cabin 5, where the other campers made way to avoid her flailing feet. Annabeth stared at me. I couldn't tell whether she was just grossed out or angry at me for dousing her. "What?" I demanded. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," she said, "that I want you on my team for Capture the Flag." Alrighty, guys, that is the end of chapter 6. So what I want you to do is head over to your Google Classroom. There's a question I want you to answer. So Clarice is the daughter of which god or goddess? So what character traits? So we know that Aries is Clarice's dad. So what character traits do you think Aries would have? And what character traits does Clarice have that make them similar? Alrighty, guys, have a great afternoon. Talk to you later.